So everybody wants brighter, healthy looking, youthful looking skin. But instead, sometimes our skin looks dull, a little bit aged. And one of the reasons for that might be that we are not exfoliating, or our new skin cells are not able to come up to the surface and, shine through. So today's video, I'm going to talk about exfoliation and skincare because a lot of people have been asking about it. And it's something that people sometimes do or run into and not understanding what they're doing, and some people don't even understand the benefit of exfoliation and how to include it in their skincare routine. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is why exfoliate. Now, our skin is facing all kinds of elements all the time. We have UV rays. It's dealing with the environment, changing temperature from, hot sun during the day, colder temperatures at night if you're sleeping in AC, that kind of thing. And all the pollutants that our skin is exposed to. Our skin really, has it to deal with on a daily basis. So beneath the surface of our skin in the dermis, our body is actually producing new skin cells, over and over and over. And those cells, they mature and they're supposed to come to the surface. And we're supposed to basically have a cycle of that happening. So that when these cells at the top, they are ready to be moved and they die and they're sloughed off, what you're really supposed to see is that new, brighter, healthier looking skin. Now, what tends to happen is that that process as we age slows. So think about it like this. Babies, for example, their cell turnover, their skin cell turnover happens in about 2 weeks, right? So their skin is always looking beautiful. Teenagers, for example, it will take like 3 to 4 weeks. But as we get older people, those cells take like 30 to 40 days to come to the surface. So what's happening is that the old dead skin cells are staying on the surface much longer than we probably want them to. Hence, your skin looks nice today and next week you find it looking a little dull and the week after it's looking, even duller than that, So when we get to like 45, 50, that cycle could be anywhere from 45 to 90 days if we allow it to happen on its own naturally. So that's why, the skin would look older faster. And could we help that? Yes, we can by exfoliation. What exfoliation really is using some kind of mechanism to basically slough off or get off the dead skin cells that are the surface of our skin to reveal the brighter cells that are below. So we have two types of exfoliation in general that we could talk about, and one is physical exfoliation and the other one is chemical exfoliation. Now when we're talking about exfoliation, what is happening is that our skin cells are held together by almost, and I'm going to use this term like a glue. That is what keeps them together, which is why we have our lovely layer of skin. And as those cells mature, that glue kind of, gets, I don't know how to call it, maybe harder or stiffer. So it's a little bit more difficult to get it off. So enter the first one, physical exfoliation. And physical exfoliation means that we're going to remove those dead skin cells with a physical means. So, for example, many of us know about scrubs. You buy a scrub, you use a scrub, and then some of us will actually make our own at home. So sometimes you have sugar-based scrubs or salt-based scrubs, or some people use baking soda, for example. The thing about that is you need to be a little bit careful with physical exfoliators or scrubs. Now, I do use scrubs, but I don't use scrubs very, very often. If I use a physical scrub maybe once a week or once every other week, that's a lot. And I'll tell you why. As we talk about it, and I'll tell you why I actually use chemical exfoliation a little bit more. But the thing about it is, and I'm going to insert a clip with me using a physical scrub. The ones that I have come to love and prefer are the sugar-based Korean ones. And why I like them is because they control the amount of time you use actually scrubbing your face. So you take out the product and you apply it, and as you're rubbing it into your skin, what's going to happen is that those sugar crystals actually melt, and they melt very, very quickly. So by the time they melt, there's no other physical or abrasive thing that's, going against your skin. And that was enough exfoliation. What tends to happen is that some people, they make their scrubs or they buy a scrub and they're constantly rubbing. 2 minutes later, you basically take off everything. Your skin is irritated. It's completely red, and you've really over removed the skin cells, and you've actually put your skin in a more compromised position because you've disturbed your natural skin barrier, and that's what we don't want. Now, that doesn't mean that scrubs are bad. You just need to know how to use scrubs, how often to use scrubs, and that kind of thing. I usually tell people who really want to include a physical scrub in their routine, try not to use that more than 2 to 3 times a week, even less if you can, because your other products should be doing some work for you. And when we talk about physical exfoliation, another thing that we can use are spin brushes, and you all hear me talk a lot about that sometimes. Now, I personally use the Clarisonic, which is actually a sonic brush. The actual spinning action comes from when you are moving it on your skin, but on its own, what that brush is actually doing is sending sonic pulses into the skin to cause the dirt to come up. Now, there are other cheaper brushes that will actually spin. So when you put it on your face, it's spinning, and that's actually a form of physical exfoliation. So while it's actually cleaning your skin, it's actually breaking down those dead skin cells as well. And that's another way that you can do physical exfoliation. So you have a couple options in terms of the brushes. For example, it is one of the reasons why with my Clarisonic I prefer to use the sensitive skin or the radiance brush head as opposed to probably the acne or some that are a little bit more stiff, because if you're going to use that on a daily or very regularly, you could end up over exfoliating, and we don't want to do that. Okay, the next thing that we're going to talk about is chemical exfoliation, and this is the one that scares people a lot. So they tend to run to physical exfoliation because they feel that they could control what's happening a little bit better or easier. The thing about chemical exfoliation, why it's called that, is because you're not actually using a physical abrasive material to scrub off those dead skin cells. You're actually using a product that is by a chemical reaction going to break down those skin cells. So you would have different types of products under chemical exfoliation that will actually loosen that glue that is holding those dead skin cells together, basically dissolve that glue, so that when you rinse your skin or you wash your face or whatever, and from continuous use, those dead skin cells will actually come off on their own and reveal the newer, brighter skin below. So in this area, we have several things or several ways that you can do this. Sometimes you will find toners that are chemical exfoliators. Sometimes you would find pads that are soaked in toners, and that's actually a dual exfoliator because it's both a physical and a chemical exfoliator. Then you have serums, and then sometimes we have peels or masks. Now, you'd say, wow, that sounds like a lot, and yes, it is. And perhaps, especially if you're a newbie, you should not be using all of those things. Now, before I talk about how you can incorporate those different types of items into your routine, let's talk about the different types of products or ingredients that are actually chemical exfoliators. So in general, I will just mention 3 categories: AHAs, which are alpha hydroxy acids, BHAs, which are beta hydroxy acids, and then PHAs. But I'm just mentioning that because a lot more products now, especially Korean products, are bringing out PHAs, but we'll leave that on the side for now. The 2 that are most popular are AHAs and BHAs. Okay, so starting with AHAs, alpha hydroxy acids. These are acids or products or ingredients that actually work from the outside of the skin or the surface of the skin. And you will hear me talk a lot about glycolic acid, lactic acid, mandelic acid, 3 of the more popular ones. Glycolic acid is probably the most popular. It has the smallest molecule of all of them. So it tends to work a little bit faster than the other AHAs. And it's one that a lot of people, especially who are acne prone, oily combination skin, tend to use because you get faster results. You have to be careful with glycolic acid though, because in general people hear, oh my god, so glycolic acid is going to help me with wrinkles, it's going to help me with pigmentation, dark spots, it's going to help me with acne, and they just want to go in for the strongest thing that they could find. And that is not necessarily the best thing. I always say gentle, consistent exfoliation is always better for you than just going in, bam, and then probably damaging your skin. And what tends to happen now is that with glycolic acid, you could find it in many different formats, but let's mention, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, because I want to put up a couple different options that you will find. Then you have lactic acid. Lactic acid, the molecules in lactic acid is a little bit bigger than the glycolic acid. It also works on the surface. It will work a little bit slower, but the thing about lactic acid is that it actually draws moisture to the skin. So people who have drier skin types, normal skin types, they tend to go for lactic acid because they feel that it's not as harsh or probably not irritating on the skin. And by the way, when we're talking about acids, but these are generally derived from food products. So glycolic acid comes from like sugar cane, sugar beets, lactic acid from soured milk and yogurt, for example. And then we have mandelic acid, which has the largest molecule of all three. And you might say, well, okay, this one is going to work the slowest, but while it works slowly, it works very, very effective, and it's fantastic for people with sensitive skin. I must mention that in general, mandelic acid is derived from bitter almonds. So if you know that you have an almond allergy, I would advise you to not go that way or not try that one. But generally, these will work on the surface of your skin to break down those dead skin cells. Then we have BHAs, which are beta hydroxy acids, and the most popular BHA is salicylic acid, the one that everybody who has pimples and acne know about. And the thing about salicylic acid, or why it's different from the glycolic and lactic and so on, is because it is actually oil soluble. So salicylic acid is able to penetrate your pore and go through the sebum, and that's how it's able to work from the inside of your skin, and which is why it's really beneficial and helps with pimples and acne and that kind of thing. So you have AHAs and you have BHAs. Those are in general the two more popular chemical exfoliants. Now, I mentioned before that you could find them in toners, serums, sometimes peels, masks, and even pads. So which one should you try and how should you use it? So in general, I usually tell people, if you haven't used an acid before, starting with a gentle acid toner is usually the best way to kind of see, how your skin is going to deal with it and kind of get you into it. So there are lots of options. You'll always hear me talk about Pixie, the Pixie Glow Tonic. There's the Ole Henriksen Dark Spot Toner that we've been talking about recently in several brands. The Ordinary has like glycolic toning solution. So you could find products in each of these categories, along a wide price range from very budget to high end. Then you have pads, and I'll include a picture here of what I'm talking about. They are usually like circular discs that come in jars, and they are soaked most times in glycolic or lactic acid, and you take one out and you basically use it like a toner after your toner to exfoliate your skin. But the thing about it is like a 2-in-1, because one side of the pad usually has raised areas. So while you're applying the chemical exfoliant, you're actually giving your skin light physical exfoliation as well. That is also a good one to start with, because there are some gentler formulas. So you could get like a 5% or a 10% formula, but there are also some really high percentage ones. So brands like Pixie has Nip and Fab, First Aid Beauty, and you also, in my Sephora haul, I bought the Sephora one. So a lot of brands have this type of acid product or presentation. Then the one that I think is probably most popular would be in serums. And again, you can find these in a whole wide range. I've done several posts on both Instagram and Facebook where I have gone through each of these types of acids, and I've given you examples of different types of products, different strengths, which one you can try for what skin type, that kind of thing. So one that is a cult favorite in the beauty community is the Sunday Riley Good Genes. It's a lactic acid serum. It looks almost kind of creamy. Then you have another one that has become very popular, which is the Pharmacy Honeymoon Glow Serum, and that one is actually a hybrid of both lactic acid, glycolic acid, and salicylic acid, for example. And then you have other brands like The Ordinary, who came out with a lactic acid 5% and 10% serum. So again, you would find it a wide range, different strengths, and again, read and choose the one that's going to be best for your skin type. Start with lower strengths and then build up. And then the other way that acids are usually presented are in masks or peels. So I have talked about one that I love, which is the Alba Botanica, and that's actually based on fruit acids or fruit enzymes that break down those cells. And then you have peels like the Ordinary AHA 30% peeling solution, which is really, really strong, really, really potent. And then you can also get professional acid peels done. So that's like when you go for a professional facial. So again, different strengths, different types for different skin types. And especially if you're now starting, always start, more gentle. So I want to just give you a couple tips, because I'm talking here very, very generally about these things to kind of give you an idea of the different types of exfoliation and why exfoliation. But I want to give you a couple of tips. Number one, like I said before, do not over exfoliate. If you over exfoliate, you could actually damage your skin's natural barrier, that lipid barrier that actually provides a protection for your skin against the elements. Number two, once you decide on a particular method of exfoliation, try to stick to that method, 1 or 2 methods, and do it, like I said, gently and consistently. So if you're going to go with a scrub, and you're going to only use a scrub, use that scrub, no more than 2 to 3 times per week. If you're going to use a scrub and include a spin brush, and you're using your spin brush daily, you could use your scrub once a week. If you're actually going to now include a chemical exfoliation product, maybe a toner, if you're using something gentle, you could use it every night, every other night. If you're using a serum, again, start gentle. You probably want to start using that 2 to 3 times per week. So it have different ways of using them, so don't over exfoliate and know how you're using them. But the other thing is that if you're going to use, for example, chemical exfoliation especially, the good thing about it is that it actually prepares your skin to receive the products that you're going to put on top of it even better, so your serums and so on. So when on the nights that you choose to probably use an exfoliating serum, you could probably top that with like a beautiful hydration serum or something that's brightening, because your skin is just going to absorb all that goodness. So it just makes your skin be better prepared to receive the product. And the last thing that I'm going to say, the last tip that I want to mention in this video, is make sure and use your SPF. You all know that I preach SPF, and SPF is critical for life, literally. But especially when you're going to do exfoliation, what's going to happen if you don't use SPF and you're exfoliating? You're basically letting your beautiful, brand new, bright, youthful looking skin cells just be exposed to the sun and get damaged like right away. Exfoliation is actually going to make your skin UV sensitive or photosensitive, to light, because of course the cells are brand new. So you want to make sure and protect that. So you're putting on your SPF to protect that skin or that new skin, but also to prevent it from, just getting damaged, and your skin in general getting damaged. So make sure that you're using SPF, especially if you're going to do exfoliation. So I know I just gave you all like 2 mouthfuls there of information, but I hope it's going to be helpful, because I've been getting a lot of questions, and a lot of you have been saying you've been looking forward for this information. So you know what, tell me below. Perhaps maybe you already exfoliate. What do you use? How often do you use it? And what is your skin type? It will probably help somebody else who wants to start, or maybe you have some questions. Let's have the discussion below. I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye.